in their nervous system. There's the blindness, now it's gone. There's the deafness, and now the deafness is gone. There's the stage 4 cancer spreading to the bones, to the peritoneum. There it is, and then there it's not. The person's getting a biological upgrade.
Hello and welcome to the Pacific Channel. I'm your host, Steve Doherty. In this audio clip, a host named Kelly asked Dr. Joe Dispenza what the health benefits are of meditation. Dr. Joe is going to say that they partnered with the University of California, San Diego and their research department. So they created 3 groups: advanced meditators, novice meditators, and people who don't meditate at all, the control group. They took a lot of pre-measurements and post-measurements. They took brain scans, they drew blood, and they were able to look up thousands of biological markers. What they found was that for the advanced meditators who came in sick before a week-long event, their biomarkers drastically improved after 7 days. About this time, COVID hit, and so they applied for a grant to do research. Next, they took the blood of one person who had dramatic changes to the event, who they happened to have on an HRV monitor, which they can use to see and measure how much love a person has in their heart. Dr. Joe is going to say that it was a supernatural amount of love, off the charts. And that's why he had such a transcendental moment or event. He also had very positive brain changes. He experienced profound brain and heart coherence. So they came up with the idea of subjecting his blood to a pseudo-virus that acts just like COVID or SARS-CoV-2. They subjected his pre-week-long event blood to the virus, and the plasma got very infected. But when they subjected his post-week-long event blood to the virus, it showed strong resistance. In other words, after the week-long event, many advanced meditators drastically improved their immune systems to the point where they can easily ward off a virus like COVID. Now, if you think like me, you might be wondering, if all of these advanced meditators were sick before they went to the event, what were they doing wrong in their personal meditation that wasn't working right? These are advanced meditators who have been meditating day in and day out for over 6 months. To me, there's an issue if advanced meditators cannot do well unless they have to go to a week-long meditation. Who can afford the time and energy to do that and on any regular basis? And what about those of us who cannot afford the money or the time to go to one of these workshops? Are there any alternatives to doing this? What are these advanced meditators doing wrong on their own exactly? And what can they do instead so that they aren't dependent upon having to meditate with a group? Shouldn't that be the goal? Before we discuss this, let's listen to Dr. Joe in this audio clip.
I'm your host, Dr. Joe Dispenza. Let's begin.
And we go after things, we want things because of the feelings we think we'll feel once we get those things, whether it's health, love, success, money, whatever it is. Just to change gears a little bit, because again, you've done so much research, scientific research in conjunction with your work to demonstrate what's actually happening in people's bodies. For people listening that think meditation is, just for lowering stress levels or, kind of some spiritual exploration or, listening to your intuition, I think it's just so fascinating, the immune system and health benefits that you've measured from meditation.
God, if you asked me even 2 years ago, if I thought that we were going to see the kind of measurements that we're getting even up to this past week in Denver, I would say, maybe we'd get lucky here and there. But I keep telling my friends and my staff, I can't believe this is the truth. I just can't believe it. Like, this is really the truth. So So we started partnering with the University of California, San Diego, and their research department. Their wonderful research department. A lot of great academics and scholars there that were interested in demystifying the process. And we started out last February, just before COVID, and we call it catching fish. We had control groups, we had novice meditators, and we had advanced meditators. And we wanted to see advanced meditators, people who do my work for more than 6 months, and they do it just about every day or 5 times a week. And novice meditators are people who came, saw the introductory courses, didn't really have a lot of experience, and then we just grabbed a bunch of controls that were husbands or wives or people that were there that were just going to hang out at the hotel for a week. And we wanted to see what kind of dramatic changes. So we took a lot of pre-measurements, and we took a lot of post-measurements, both brain scans, HRV scans, and then we drew a lot of blood, and we were looking up thousands and thousands and thousands of biological markers that cells produce when they're healthy and when they're sick. And we have sophisticated instrumentation that we have access to. And so right after the study, I get a call from the vice chair of research there, and he says, I think we need to talk. And I said, okay. And he said, I love when he says this, we have some really compelling data. And we saw some people in the advanced meditator group came in like really stressed and really sick. And then in 7 days, there was a dramatic drop in their cellular function across the board when we looked at their plasma, like dramatic. So we started looking to see what is it in this blood that is so unusual. And so COVID happened, and we said, let's apply for a grant to do research for COVID. So a group of us got together, we wrote a grant, and we took the blood of one particular person who had dramatic changes, who, by the way, also sent in, unbeknownst to me, his story of his transformation was nothing less than supernatural, his inward event that was so transcendental. And we happened to capture him during that event. He had a HRV monitor on, and the amount of love that he was feeling was certainly a lot of love. It wasn't a little bit, it wasn't a lot, it was a supernatural amount. The amplitudes on his measurements tell us something profound's happening. Then we happened to capture his brain right after the experience in our post measurements, and there was a lot of great changes going on in his brain. So when we looked at his blood, all of a sudden we got a story, we got brain changes, heart changes, and a lot of coherence. And when we look at his blood, we say, okay, something's crazy happening. So let's take a pseudovirus that acts just like SARS-CoV-2, and let's subject the control group to the SARS pseudovirus, see what happens. Let's subject the plasma of the novice meditators, and let's look at the plasma of advanced meditators. And as you would suspect, the controls, the cells in the plasma absorbed the virus, and when it gets inside the cell, it produces a bright red field. So we saw the cells infected. Then we looked at the novice meditators, and we saw some cells were infected and others weren't. There was some type of resistance. But when we looked at his blood, there was an absolute resistance to the SARS virus. And we subjected his blood before the week-long, and his blood was very infected. But at the end, when we subjected his blood to the COVID virus, there was a strong resistance. So then we took electron microscopes, and we did a surface analysis, and you could see the cells, the actual SARS virus inside the cells of the controls. You saw in the novice some inside, some outside, but on his and a few others, you just saw the virus outside of the cell. So this is dramatic news here. So at this point, we've actually just yesterday found out that we isolated the molecule that's so important for this kind of activity, and we took his blood and others' blood, and we subjected it to cancer cells. And a cancer cell produces an enormous amount of energy. They're almost immortal. And the mitochondria in the cell, which are the lungs of the cell, the energy packets of the cell, in a cancer cell are the ATP, they're at very high levels. Subject that cancer cell, uterine cancer cell, to advanced meditator's blood, and all of a sudden you see a 70 5 or 74% reduction in the energy in a cancer cell. Take that same plasma and subject it now to someone who has nerve cells that have the amyloid protein or the Alzheimer protein that's secreted during when a cell does its thing with Alzheimer's, and you see all those genes downregulate, like the cell gets healthy. So we're on this enormous discovery. Now we started looking closer at the brain function of certain people during a transcendental moment, an inward experience that's transcendent of anything that's outside of the known. And the amount of energy that we're capturing in a person's brain when they have those moments it's so outside of normal, and it tends to be in these beautiful mathematical formulations that are just like the golden mean, that kind of spiral that makes up ears and shells and universes and everything else, the patterns, and pine cones and seeds and flowers. There's all the same pattern. So we start looking at the data, and the mathematical probability of something like that happening is statistically impossible according to the research. And if it did occur, it would happen as a random event that would last for a millisecond. And here we are, we got this sustained states. So like if you're listening to me right now, your auditory circuitry is going, I'm talking, may have a little visualization of what I'm saying, so you might get a little activity. But if you look at the brain, it's about 4% of the brain, maybe 5% of it firing at one time. So when you get this amount of coherence, what syncs in the brain links in the brain. So you get this kind of intense amount of order in the brain, and waves build on waves when that happens. So 28% of the brain is functioning in order as compared to 4%, and the person's having an arousal. And there's so much order taking place in their nervous system. Remember, stress is autonomic dysregulation. The autonomic nervous system dysregulates. The amount of energy, the frequency, the intensity is happening in the autonomic nervous system that's causing the person to feel an arousal. And the arousal is nothing short of ecstasy or bliss, and they experience wholeness. And so we see more wholeness reflected in their nervous system. There's the blindness, now it's gone. There's the deafness, and now the deafness is gone. There's the stage 4 cancer spreading to the bones, to the peritoneum. There it is, and then there it's not. The person's getting a biological upgrade. There's a person with a paralyzed limb from a stroke, and then now the person is lifting their arm above their head. Now, I have to tell you that when I see something like that, I think I'm more surprised than anybody, because you change the pattern in the field. You change the hologram in three-dimensional reality. It's not the tumor. The tumor is the illusion. It's the projection from source, right? It's the pattern that's in the field that's causing the projection. As an example, you take 3 stones and you drop them in a plate. And those 3 stones are all dropped at the same time, and then you see those waves, the ripples, and they interfere. If you freeze that plate, and then you take a laser and you shine a laser through that plate, the frozen water, there's information in that plate. And when the laser passes through, you see the appearance of 3 stones suspended in the air. It looks like the stones are actually occupying space there. Well, that's exactly how it works in physics. The information is in the field. So if you have a coherent heart and a coherent brain, the interference is highly organized. And if we do that properly, the condition that's appearing in three-dimensional reality should actually disappear. And so we see it appearing and then disappearing. We're shortening the distance between cause and effect, between the thought of being well and the experience of being well. And it can't be matter doing that. It's got to be energy. And energy begins to inform matter. When it does, the outcomes are really great. So when we see these high gamma patterns in the brain, and you see this beautiful balance between these low frequency waves that the heart is producing, going up a lot, that means that's energy in the heart. We see this in our community. Once that happens, the sympathetic nervous system gets aroused. And now the heart starts driving energy to the brain. It's telling the brain it's safe. It's telling the brain you're out of survival. You can create, you can connect. And when that occurs, we see delta waves, theta waves, alpha waves, beta waves, actually producing faster and faster frequency into gamma. And gamma is consciousness, it's awareness, it's an awakening. So the person is completely relaxed, completely in the present moment, and completely awake and aware. And I think that's the formula to live life. And it only takes one of those transcendental moments to realize that it's not coming from out there. It's actually coming from in here. And so we do a lot of brain measurements in real time. We do a lot of HRV measurements where we do a lot of coherence healings for other people. And we have people, we're looking to see with a Healy, if their Healy is synchronizing their heart rhythms to the healers and what kind of probability that is. We have random event generators in the room to determine, oh my God, this isn't just a random event. There's something really magical happening here. And our community is getting synchronized. They're getting really good at it. And if you're looking at a brain scan of maybe there's 10 people getting their brain scanned, and you see 5 out of 10 people going into that state, you got to look around the room and say there's 1,500 people in the room here. Maybe half the people are experiencing what this person's experiencing. That's exactly what occurs. So then when we looked at the blood, we had the time to look at the blood of the novice meditators, and that's 70% of our audience normally. And we look at the volcano chart, the plot of novice meditators, the enormous amount of biological changes that are taking place in 1 week. Anybody who looks at this, you see all these really unhealthy elements, and all of them just drop down. And 77% of the people have that kind of dramatic change in a week-long event. Now, they're doing that without getting anything outside of them. When they connect and they feel that arousal, that love, their bliss, they're not saying, oh, it's coming from out there. It's coming from within here. Now they're no longer looking for it out there, and they're looking for it in here. And that's when the love affair begins. That's when things start to change, and you never want to miss a date. So I've been on research calls for the last week because these guys, we have scientists now that are so immersed in what we're doing. I love it because I talked to a scientist yesterday and he said, I ran the test 3 times. And I said, what'd you get? Same results. You ran it 3 times. I thought of another way to run the test. We ran the test another way. We got the same results. I can't believe what we're getting here. And we've pretty much mined everything except the human body. And so there's just so much great things happening. And the most exciting part for me is that nobody's excluded. And we're not measuring anybody who's any more special than anybody else, and we have great elders that have the experience. We had 50, 100 kids under 25 years old at our events, and 8-year-olds and 7-year-olds and 9-year-olds fully in. Imagine who those guys are going to be, and I want that to be normal for them. So we're asking bigger questions. We have a research fund now, and a research institute, and we're doing some pretty exciting things.
So they also subjected the blood plasma of the advanced meditators to cancer cells. When they did that, the cancer cell lost 75% of its energy. And for Alzheimer's, the result was similar. The point is that Dr. Joe has all of this evidence that his week-long events work. 77% of people who attend have a dramatic change, according to Dr. Joe. To me, the obvious question is, what are the meditators doing during the week-long event that they are not doing when they meditate alone? What is the difference? Is it being a part of a group that makes the difference? Is it pushing yourself to meditate for 7 days straight, all day long, that makes the difference? Is it something that Dr. Joe does special during those 7 days that makes the difference? Or is it some combination of all of this? Also, I have heard that for some people who experience a profound healing, their illness comes back at a later time. Well, if that's the case, then why is that happening? What can we do about it? What should we do about it? And why wasn't it a permanent healing? I think the answer to that question is that once you figure out how to elevate your emotion to that state of pure bliss and love in the present moment, once you have that transcendental experience, you must do your best to milk that feeling and keep your vibration high throughout your daily life. If you allow yourself to lower your vibration to the level of your familiar past and old self, then via the law of attraction, you will attract the same illness you had before. Personally, I don't want to be dependent on others to be able to heal. And I don't believe that we have to be dependent upon anyone else to heal ourselves. If you can figure it out on your own, that's a lot more empowering, right? But I also believe in the power of groups. There is power in numbers. But maybe that's just a belief. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we diminish our own power when we think we must be dependent upon others. Dr. Joe leaves another clue as to what it takes to have a transcendental moment and the best way to be in your awakened state. You must get completely relaxed, be completely in the present moment, and be completely awake and aware. That's it. So if you haven't gotten to that transcendental state yet, don't get discouraged. Apparently that's very common at this point, unless you attend one of Dr. Joe's week-long workshops. But perhaps there is a way for us to figure out how to do it on our own. If you like this video, please gently smash the like button. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Our channel's goal is to make it to at least 100,000 subscribers so that we can improve the content and offer you more things. Additionally, if you want to be eligible to win a free ticket to one of Dr. Joe Dispenza's week-long courses, please share this video with 5 of your friends and comment below. In addition, we have 2 free EFT group healing classes now. One is on Saturday every other week, and the other one is Sunday every other week. Please check the date and the time in the description below, along with how to register for it. And now, I'd like to give a shout out to Happy Grateful Mornings. I'm very happy that you are enjoying the videos so much, and I wish you the best in your endeavor to become a healer. I think you're in the right place. If you have any questions, please ask them below and I'll do my best to answer them, or leave a comment about what you think about this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.